4 meals for you guys, so let's get to it. Alright, so we're gonna get started with these garlic butter pork chops. They're super easy to make, and I decided to make them with mashed potatoes. And I just make my mashed potatoes in the Instant Pot. Super easy. You just set your pressure to 8 minutes and you quick release when they're done. Super easy. Love making mashed potatoes in the Instant Pot. Then you'll get started making your pork chops. So I have 2 cast iron pans going right now, and in one I'm adding 2 tablespoons of butter, 3 garlic cloves, a teaspoon of taco seasoning, which seems weird for this, but it honestly gave this recipe so much flavor. I loved it. A handful of chopped onion, salt and pepper, and I just added that to my hot pan. And then in another pan I'm just putting some olive oil because I have 8 pork chops and I have a 4-year-old who's not about that garlic and onion life. So I definitely tried to make a few just for her. And then for your pork chops, you're gonna add a tablespoon of cornstarch, 1 egg, salt and pepper, and you're just gonna mix that together. Use your hands if you have to. And you're just gonna add these to your hot sizzling pans, and you're gonna let them cook for about 4 minutes on each side. Then I got started on my creamy, like gravy, saucy part of this recipe. Because I didn't have heavy whipping cream or half and half, I just used butter and whole milk. I took out my pork chops from the pan and I added that mixture back into the pan and let it come to a boil and let it kind of simmer for a little bit. And then once it was done simmering for a couple of minutes, I added my pork chops back in and let my pork chops cook for a little bit longer. I added salt and pepper and a little bit of taco seasoning here on top. Once they cooked it with that for like 2 minutes, I flipped them and I let them kind of simmer just like this. And then I started getting to work on my mashed potatoes, and for that it's just milk, butter, and salt and pepper. And then it was time to plate. This was a super easy recipe, and it was so flavorful and so good. I just used frozen corn in the microwave and topped it with the sauce that I made for the pork chops, and you guys have to try this one. It was just delicious. Alright, to make this loaded veggie chili, you're gonna need some veggies. So I actually had these in my freezer. It's yellow squash and zucchini. I chopped them up and I wasn't smart and didn't defrost them. So what I did was I just threw this in the microwave and I let them defrost and get soft. And then I got started on chopping up this whole onion. You're gonna add an entire onion to this chili recipe, and you're gonna go ahead and add that to your pan or your pot. I used a Dutch oven. If you don't have a Dutch oven, what are you doing? You need a Dutch oven. I can use this one pan for literally everything. I love it so much. So I just added that, and then I decided to put a ton of garlic in this. I probably added like 6 garlic cloves. I love garlic so much. It's so good for you. It has so many healthy benefits for you, and especially in this like winter season when everyone's getting sick, I love to add garlic to pretty much everything we eat. I let the garlic and onion saute for a little bit while I got started chopping up my jalapeno and bell pepper. I guess you always seem to know. Hello, Mona. I push back the serious feeling, the end's unknown, to get back the life I used to know. Something I've never added to my chili is this sweet Italian chicken sausage, and I'm telling you guys, it made this chili so good. I also added a pound of ground beef, and then here I'm adding 2 tablespoons of chili powder and a tablespoon of cumin and some salt and pepper.
I stand alone. Show me where the ending goes. Honestly don't. I should be the last.
So here's my veggie mixture once it's out of the microwave. I let it cool down for a little bit, and then I added this to my Ninja blender cup, and I just blended that. You can also do carrots, I'm sure, and broccoli, any veggies you have on hand. You want to get it to like a saucy texture and consistency so that you can add this to your sauce and it'll be pretty much untraceable. And you're adding those nutrients in without having to sacrifice the texture. So once your meat is done cooking, you're gonna add a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. I added a 25-ounce can of kidney beans rinsed and a 15.5-ounce can of black beans rinsed. And you can kind of play with the size of those. That's just what I had in my pantry, so that's what I used. But it turned out amazing. And then once I was done with that, I added a can of petite diced tomatoes. So right here I'm adding a cup and a half of it's a bone broth that I had made earlier in the week, but you can use chicken broth, beef broth, veggie broth, whatever you want. And then we have the veggie mixture, I mixed that in, and then another tablespoon of chili, and right here is where I add the tablespoon of cumin, and then I have salt and pepper, and lastly I added a tablespoon of brown sugar. So once you bring it to a boil, you're gonna bring it down in heat and let it simmer. I let mine simmer for about 3 hours because I made my chili kind of early, but you can do yours about 45 minutes to an hour. But the longer that you let it simmer, the better it's gonna be. We topped ours with shredded cheese and green onions and went to town. This chili was so delicious, and it's filled with so many good nutrients and vegetables. This next one are cream cheese taquitos. These are so easy to make, and what's really awesome about them is the more you make, the better, because you can store them in your freezer and then bring them out when you just need a meal super fast. I like to warm mine up in the air fryer, but you can definitely warm them up in the oven. So the first thing I'm doing is just getting my chicken ready. I decided to use some chicken leg quarters that I had, and I just put those in the Instant Pot for 25 minutes, and then once those were done, I shredded the chicken. I added a full block of cream cheese, some taco seasoning, a teaspoon of cumin, salt and pepper, and a 1/4 cup of salsa, and I mixed that together, and then I added my chopped cilantro to it, and then I kept mixing it. And you want it to be a nice like creamy consistency, so you can mix this as much as you want. And what's really great about this recipe is that you can add whatever you want to it. I like to add black beans, sometimes I add refried beans, sometimes I add bell pepper, sometimes I add corn. It really is so versatile. And even with the tortillas, we decided to do a street style flour tortilla for these, but you can do corn tortillas. You just have to get them really pliable and kind of warm before you roll them so they don't break apart. I've used regular sized flour tortillas for these, and I actually made these in the morning because I had to go to work that day and I wanted the kids and the kids' dad to have food for that day. So I made these in the morning with my daughter, and she was helping me, passing me the tortillas, and they're just so fast, so easy. I stored mine in this foil lasagna tin pan, and I just actually stuck them right into the freezer, and JC, my husband, and the kids ate these that day just right into the air fryer. So it's so easy to make and assemble, and they make so many.
Here by the ocean, fire is burning.
So this is exactly how I store them in the freezer. I put them straight from here into the freezer. They don't stick together. I've noticed they haven't stuck together, and this is just how we do it. So this is actually a few days later. I just wanted to show you guys how I get them out of the freezer and warm them up in the air fryer. I have the Instant Pot Vortex air fryer, so you have to preheat it. So I put it on preheat, and then I got my taquitos out, and there were only 5 left, and we went through these so fast because they're so good and so easy. So what you'll do is you'll preheat, you'll stick them in. You just want to make sure that the lip part is down, facing down, and it's not facing up like where it folds. Because they're frozen, they should stay, but if you're baking these or frying these, you want to make sure that part is down. And then I just started my Instant Pot. You want to do a low and slow setting because they're frozen. You want the middle part to cook. So I did 325 for 12 minutes, and that was perfect. They come out crispy. You can eat them with mustard, with salsa. So good. This next one is the Mexican one pot quinoa bowl. So this one is a lot like the chili, which I like to do on weeks just because I want to use up the same ingredients that I'm using previously. So I was able to use the rest of that chicken broth and the ground beef. I had a 2-pound package of ground beef, so I used 1 pound for the chili and I used 1 pound for this recipe. So I like to do that. I like to use the same ingredients if I have more left over for a similar recipe, but just change it up. And this one is so good and so easy. And if you don't like quinoa, this is the perfect recipe to use it in because it soaks up all of the flavors of what you're cooking it with, and it's just so nutrient dense and so filling and cheap. So it's just a really good idea to use that. So for this recipe, I'm using 2 cloves of garlic, 1 chopped jalapeno, half of a chopped bell pepper, handful of chopped onion, a cup of frozen corn. I kind of just like make this stuff up as I go, honestly. If I see something in my fridge that I think will look good in this, I'll put it in there. Like, I really didn't see that bell pepper until later on, and then I was like, oh, that would be perfect in this. So then I chopped it up and I put it in there, and then way later I realized I had frozen corn in the freezer, and I also threw that in there. once my meat and vegetables were done cooking, I added a cup of chicken broth, and then I added a 15-ounce can of fire roasted diced tomatoes. This is kind of like rotel, I guess. I guess you could do rotel, that would work as well. And then I added a cup of quinoa and a 15-ounce can of black beans. I added a cup of frozen corn at this point, mixed it up, and then for my seasonings I added a teaspoon of cumin and a teaspoon of chili pepper and a little bit more salt and pepper. I mixed everything up and then I let this simmer for about 30 minutes on low. I made sure to bring it to a boil first, and then I turned it down and put the lid on it. Also, make sure you add more water if you think that you don't have enough water. I think I added like a 4th cup of water more. This is what it should look like when you're done. It should be nice and fluffy, and there's like these little white rings that kind of come off of your quinoa. And I always try to test my food when I'm done cooking just to see if I need to add more salt, and I did, so I added some more salt at this point. So this one is very versatile on the toppings. We decided to do some cilantro, which a tip for cilantro to keep it good is to keep it in a cup with the roots in water. It makes your cilantro last way longer in the fridge. But anyways, we also added some onions, some green onions, and then I put some jalapenos on top of this. I put cheese on top of this. We put avocado on top of this, and then I didn't even show it, but we had some tortilla chips and we crushed those up and added that on top as well. So this is like one of those things you just want to add whatever toppings you want. Obviously this was like Mexican inspired, so we had a lot of Mexican toppings added to this, and you could even top this with sour cream. That would be really good, so get creative with this. This one is a winner for us. Oh, I totally forgot. We added salsa to this too. And this one, we had a little bit of salsa left in the fridge, and I was like, oh, we can add salsa to this as well. Like I said, it's so versatile. Instead of avocado, you could do guac as well. And then we added lemon on top. That was really good. My daughter ate this, and she's 4, and she loved it. Without the jalapenos, of course, and the salsa. But it was so delicious, and I'll definitely be making this way more often. Okay, so that is it for today. I'm definitely going to be making more of these videos, so please hit that subscribe button so that you see when I make my next What's for Dinner video. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave me a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
I long for you so much I can find